Hello, my name is Sam Lavine, and I'm a sophomore research fellow for the Civil War Institute at Gettysburg College. Today, we're on Cemetery Hill to talk about the tale of two generals and their monuments. They are Winfield Scott Hancock, whose statue you see behind me, and General Oliver Otis Howard, who we'll talk about later. Winfield Scott Hancock was a career soldier, graduate of the West Point class of 1840. He stayed in service up until the Civil War. In the spring of 1863, he rose to command the 2nd Corps in the Army of the Potomac. By the time the Battle of Gettysburg comes around, he will have been in command of the 2nd Corps for 5 weeks. He is a standout young commander in the Army of the Potomac. Now, today, Winfield Scott Hancock's equestrian statue, the one you see behind me, is on Cemetery Hill. However, the majority of the 2nd Corps would be engaged on the days of July 2nd and July 3rd on Cemetery Ridge. So why is Hancock's statue here? To understand this, we need to go to July 1st, 1863, and the first day of the battle. On the morning of July 1st, elements of John Buford's cavalry division makes contact with Harry Heath's infantry division to our northwest on the Seminary Ridge. Throughout the morning, the engagement will escalate. John Reynolds will arrive with men of the 1st Corps. Later in the afternoon, he will be reinforced by Oliver Otis Howard's 11th Corps. As the afternoon unfolds, the Union line begins to falter, and it breaks at Barlow's Knoll. Oliver Otis Howard is here, and he has scouted out Cemetery Ridge and designated it as a rallying point for the Army of the Potomac. General George Gordon Meade, commander of the Army of the Potomac, is in the area of Emmitsburg, Maryland, when he gets the news that another Chancellorsville is occurring, that the men of the 11th Corps have broken and ran. Meade knows that his army needs to be able to take a stand, so he dispatches Winfield Scott Hancock to take command of the situation here at Cemetery Ridge and ensure that the rallying of the Army of the Potomac goes well. After 3 years under construction and 10 years after the death of General Winfield Scott Hancock, his statue is finally dedicated here on Cemetery Hill. The dedication speech, delivered by Brevet Brigadier General Henry H. Bingham, is very complimentary of Hancock, in which he states, "Pennsylvania, your native state, commissions you as sentinel over this hallowed ground. The army is all around you. The lines of battle are marked in stone, and you of bronze and iron will ever watch and ward." Hancock is described as a thunderbolt of the Army of the Potomac. He is a good corps commander, and that's why Meade sends Hancock here to lead the regroup of the Army of the Potomac on the evening of July 1st. Notice how Hancock is posed astride his horse, his hand outstretched, almost giving a calming presence to the men who would have been here on Cemetery Hill that evening. His horse has its front hoof elevated. Now, usually this is an indicator that the rider was wounded, which Hancock was on July 3rd, 1863, while commanding his 2nd Corps during the Pickett Pettigrew Charge. But it also gives a different feel, that Hancock is mobile, he's a man on the move, and that's very much the case. He will arrive here in Gettysburg on July 1st and command forces on Cemetery Hill until the rest of the Army of the Potomac arrives, before moving west to Cemetery Ridge, where he will stay and command the rest of the battle, trying to make up for the mistakes of 3rd Corps Commander Dan Sickles, and then continuing the defense of the Union Center on July 3rd during the Pickett Pettigrew Charge. Hancock is widely regarded as one of the best generals of the Civil War, and his statue placement here on Cemetery Hill, closest to the road, and the compliments given to him in his speech widely reflect that. Winfield Scott Hancock's statue is not the only one here on Cemetery Hill. He is joined by the statue of General Oliver Otis Howard, commander of the 11th Corps. However, his statue and his story here at Gettysburg is a little bit different. The 2nd equestrian statue here on Cemetery Hill belongs to Major General Oliver Otis Howard, commander of the Federal 11th Corps. He is not viewed as kindly by the Army of the Potomac and by historians as Winfield Scott Hancock. He is not very well known for his generalship here in the East. At the Battle of Chancellorsville in the spring of 1863, Howard and the men of his 11th Corps are blamed for the defeat at Chancellorsville when their lines broke and ran. On July 1st, 1863, when Meade receives reports that once again the 11th Corps lines are breaking. This is when he knows he needs to take action and dispatches Winfield Scott Hancock. However, Howard will still receive his statue, erected by the state of Maine. And you can see that there are some differences between Howard's statue and Hancock's that give a much different emotional feeling when you look at them. Arguably, the most noticeable difference between Howard and Hancock statues are the posing. Howard looks solemnly towards the north, where his men would have been engaged earlier in the day on July 1st, as he watches the retreat of the 11th Corps and the remnants of the 1st Corps through the town of Gettysburg. Howard's horse is also posed differently. Its head is down, mouth open, maybe looking a little scared. Howard still receives his statue here, as this is where he would command his men on July 2nd and 3rd, but he does not receive the same credit that Hancock does for his generalship during the Gettysburg campaign. After Gettysburg, the 11th Corps will be sent west by George Meade to fight in the Tennessee. Howard is more known for his generalship there, and is able to repair his combat reputation. By late 1864, the 11th Corps is disbanded, and will never fight as a unit again. Hancock and the 11th Corps in the East will have a spotted reputation, one that is reflected in popular histories of the Battle of Gettysburg and in his statue here on Cemetery Hill. After the war, Oliver Howard will go on to work and advocate for freed persons, known for his work with the Freedmen's Bureau and his Edisto Island letter. He also serves as the namesake for Howard University, the largest historically black college university in the country. However, his legacy here at Gettysburg is one not as sterling as some of his comrades. Monuments and statues are a huge part of how we tell the history and stories of the American Civil War, especially here at Gettysburg. And these statues here on Cemetery Hill provide great example as to how placement and posing of statues can reflect opinions about the people whose stories are told here. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today here on Cemetery Hill, and until next time, for the Civil War Institute, I'm Sam Lavine.